Things that South African hip hop could have done better in 2017. Now, before I get into this, I think it's very important for me to mention this. I get calls from artist managers, from industry people, from rappers, from a lot of people asking me why don't we cover certain things. Now, Slick on Life hasn't been built to find holes in the industry or put artists to shame, because we are from an industry that has actually built itself of putting artists to shame. But what they did make me aware of is that, or things that I should also be aware of, is that some of these things are affecting the growth of the culture. And so not only are they impacting the individuals we're going to mention, but some of these things have been happening from history in the hip-hop game, and we probably need to start addressing them. It's just there's unfortunately leaders today who are the leaders who will probably be mentioned, but this thing started from the leaders before those leaders, and it keeps continuing and it keeps continuing. Now me, as a hip-hop cat, I'm highly invested in the game. I've listened to the stories of Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, all these guys when they were coming up, and when they make it and they become successful, I always celebrate, but I don't even know them. And I ask myself, why am I so happy for these guys? It's because I'm so invested in the culture. My background in the game is not only on what happened in 2017, my background in this game starts from 1996. So I will tell you of things that I've seen that have repeated themselves again and again, and I will not address individuals and put it on their shoulders because they're the leaders, but I'll literally start from how it started in history for certain individuals to also be in the positions that they are in. We highly invested in hip hop. Not only are we invested in hip hop, the rappers that make the songs are invested in hip hop. They invested in the songs. The DJs are invested in hip hop. The promoters are invested in hip hop. The guys that genuinely do it. The guys that run the labels are invested in hip hop. This is about everybody that's invested in the business. So this is not about one person, but this is about everyone that's invested in this culture. So let's get in. These are the things that we could have done better. I think that the acknowledgement of the hip-hop history is a very important thing in South Africa. Slaggeest did a great documentary called The Hip-Hop Effect. It was on BET. I don't think that hip-hop basically celebrated it. I don't think that hip-hop basically amplified it. I don't think that today's artists, I don't even think that even yesterday's artists actually said, yo, check this out. Yes, it was on BET, a niche channel, but maybe it needs to be spread online. But this is the story that makes us understand why we gotta respect where all of us come from and how this game got to where it got to. Today, we see quite the artists who literally used to diss us. Embracing the new generation of rappers as if yeah, they've always been a part of this. And the new generation of rappers buy into this. But the truth of the matter, they've been only a few quite artists that really bought into what we do. You know what I mean? But a lot of them were always taking shots because we weren't even selling records. So The Hip Hop Effect is a documentary that really tells where the story of hip hop came from and how you today are saying you're a hip hop fan, or you're buying hip hop shirt, or that rapper's buying this car, or that rapper's buying this house. Learn your history. I talk about Jewish people and wealth. Jewish people don't talk about, Jewish people is not about their money, it's about the history. We got to start learning the history because that's when we start knowing how to capitalize further and keep growing. So I think The Hip Hop Effect was a huge documentary that really told the story of South African hip hop, and we slept on that. We could have done better, hip hop. So number 9 is basically bashing our own properties. Properties, when I say our own, that are started by hip hop people, whether it's rappers, DJs, or promoters, or just people that love the culture, bashing our own properties in that way. I mean, an example is Nasty C basically boycotting South African Hip Hop Awards. It would be unfair for me to put it on Nasty C's shoulders. So let me start it from where it started. It started from guys that I look up to, a guy that I look up to that literally probably helped me shape Squatter Camp through just a piece of advice, Thabiso Khati, who literally worked with guys that probably looked at what Squatter Camp did, which was Tear Gas or Cash Time or KO and them. They probably boycotted South African Hip Hop Awards. They boycotted South African Hip Hop Awards, and that literally spilt over. It went to the media, it went to the social. And I'm not saying that if we don't like things about the things we do, we shouldn't talk about them. But let's stop publicly doing these things. Because The fact that they boycotted SA Hip Hop Awards, the social media fans talked about it and they have their perception on it. Then the media talks about it, and then we all look like we don't know what we're doing. But hey, we forget that just a few weeks ago, KO was performing at the South African Hip Hop Awards. No one made a big story about the fact that KO is now performing at the South African Hip Hop Awards. It's only the negative stuff, but the stuff when we actually accept ourselves, because hip hop will always accept you. The core will always accept you. When we come back and we start talking, no one talks about the fact that, hey, KO is back. But all the bad news was a big thing. So let's stop publicly like tearing our own properties, because let's keep it 100. Which event that is owned by an artist has had 100% organization of accreditation, production, payments, just event experience? All the events, from whether you back to the city, whether you're Major League Garden, whether you fill up F&B, all the events that are owned by us in the culture have had a problem. Why? Because we don't have the money to pay the right companies to literally like do the right job, because they're expensive. And if we did, then we wouldn't have these cultures. We wouldn't have a Back to the City, we wouldn't have a Pop Bottles, we wouldn't have had all these guys who literally took these sacrifices and said, we're gonna do it even though we don't have everything. So let's stop bashing each other as if we got it together. Huge thing. So I'm not putting it on Nasty C's shoulders. I'm saying that he did boycott it because he saw a wave of other people that have boycotted that he probably also looked up to over time. It's a cultural thing that's a problem. It started somewhere. We gotta stop that, all right? That's my number 9. We all making history, whether we like it or not. You know, the artists are making history. The guys that are doing events are making history. I mean, the managers are making history. But I think, you know, the 5th season and AKA non-amicable split is actually a sad part of history, because AKA could have wanted to grow and no one can stop that. But you know, 5th season also maybe discovered what really assisted the growth of an artist that's a gem in South Africa right now. Even if they don't have AKA, at least they must walk away with the fact that we discovered an artist that's a gem. And in history, you know, maybe 5th season will be seen as that's the label that was bitter, that keeps pushing these stories, blah, blah, you know what I mean? It's an unfortunate thing that these two parties that have created such great history and created a great product and built a great product like AKA, who's literally like gonna further grow to where it needs to go, that history is gonna see the label that actually assisted him to get to that point as the label that was bitter. Not saying whose fault it was, not saying whose blame it is, but I'm just saying, it's just a sad thing that history will probably remember them for, well, at least remember the label that helped as a label that probably was bitter, when they've actually done a lot more great work also, you know? It's an unfortunate thing. And then my number 7, selling our industries to outsiders. I mean, right now, let's talk about like a lot of people are putting money in the game, whether it's the brands, whether it's the politicians, whether it's the guys who just come from outside. Let's be 100 with you. The bag does not mean that that's the solution. If we talk about the event that exists today, or things that exist today, are things that everyone from the culture spent money on. Pop Bottles have been around for almost like 9 years. Back to the City's been around for almost 10 years. Major League Gardens is literally like maybe on their 3rd year, if I'm not mistaken. Fill Up F&B is on their 3rd year. All these guys never had the bag when they started. All these guys said, we're gonna take the risk and we're gonna actually like see what happened. And they built this. The bag doesn't mean it's the answer. The culture will always be driven by the people that actually say, I'm authentically taking the risk. So all these guys that are buying the culture, whether it's the brands, whether they're buying it through the artists, whether they're buying it through the events, whether they're buying it through whatever, whether it's brands, politicians, y'all guys need to stop that. And all the artists that allow that to happen, you guys also need to stop that, right? It's only gonna be the guys that actually come in and go, we might make a loss, but we love the culture enough to say if we lost, we lost. But then the guys will go, even if we made a loss, we're gonna keep on pursuing. This is what we see. These are the properties that exist in the culture that are still standing. It's guys that are who truly like took the risk and said, we're gonna do this without the bag. Are they getting the bag today? Well, most of them are, because they took the risk. So the bag is not the thing, so let's stop selling this industry to outsiders. It's a short-term plan. And number 6 is the failure to also celebrate the 6 psalms that quest the God. I mean, failing to celebrate this is that There's no other artist that's gotten 6 Summer Awards, right? And the reason why I say this is a huge thing for us to overlook is that there's going to be a kid who's going to PR himself, like in a couple of years, he's going to get 6 or 5 or 4 awards, and he's going to be saying that he's the first that did it. Only because we never celebrated it when it happened at our time, today. So my thing is that we need to start celebrating our stories more, because that's when our history becomes authentic. And that's when, like, you know, you don't have these things where OGs are mad at like the young Gs because they're like, yeah, these kids. Because, you know, the OGs also never documented their history. And the OGs generation also never made the history something valuable. You know what I mean? That's why the new kids come in and they say, we the first. And they celebrate it and they document it. So, you know, I think that just as a culture, we gotta like celebrate and document certain things. So like the facts are always there, right? The Migos concert. The Migos concert was terrible. I ain't gonna say much about that. We don't need these Americans coming in and pissing on us and smoking while they're performing and not giving a damn. Like what? Like they just, yo, it's grand American as well, I must say. But it's all, we allow that also ourselves. So we also need to also like start like putting like rules and regulations. And this goes as far as even brands that are booking artists, international artists that say they don't want to do interviews, they don't want to. So what then? You know what I mean? If they think they're too big to even talk to the people that are paying them a check, we giving them that power. We giving them, and I'm not saying this just because I'm a blog, but I'm just saying this straight because, you know, if we actually gonna have any integrity with our things, when like our artists are filling up stadiums, when our artists can actually like break their own records in Africa, do things that these international artists can't do, why are we giving them so much power? So Migos concert was terrible, but just generally, like artists that come from overseas that come here and think that they just gonna get a check and they won't even kind of like pay respect, kind of like actually speak to their fans and say, actually, this is the story. Y'all gotta stop with that. We see y'all. And then my number 4, yo, buying awards for the culture. I gotta say, yo, the culture is an organic thing. Our hip hop culture is probably the only culture that actually is built off cosigns. You name an artist that has been something without a cosign in hip hop. You can pay maybe like for a gospel artist marketing strategy. You know, you can pay for a house artist's song to kind of blow up and build it up and everything else, you know. A lot of these artists in the industry build themselves, but cosigns are the key thing that creates hip hop. Immediately when we actually like start like buying our things, like all the other genres that keep buying things, you know, we kill that cohesion, that organic growth that an artist literally can really get. And then when the artist song doesn't become big or whatever, but he's got a couple of awards, then people go, it's hating. And then it just builds this whole thing of hate. Then we start tearing each other up only because we literally disturb the natural growth of an artist. We disturb the natural growth of an artist. And I'm not saying buying like YouTube views or buying whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we cannot buy medals if we still need to develop the artist to get to a point where they can actually get those medals. I know artists who literally got bought medals, and they got bought medals, and the day that they literally left the company that bought whoever the medals they bought, everybody forgot about them. And that artist had potential to grow. I seen it in the game. Don't even ask me. I seen it in the game. That artist had potential to grow. But the simple fact is that they paid for the medals. And you know what happens when they pay for the medals? Because these awards are being watched by everybody, or at least the majority of the people. The people who are watching it who don't even know who that artist they go, let's go check that person out. And they check the person out and they're listening to the album like, but she's an award winner. They're not listening to the album like, oh, you know, they listening to hear the mistakes. How did they beat the artist that we thought that the artist was supposed to win? They listen to you from a how did you beat the artist perspective, not from a oh, you deserve to win. And when they listen from you from a how you beat the artist perspective, that's already a negative take on your first listen. And you would have had that person as a fan if you had allowed yourself to grow organically. So yo, stop buying these awards, man. It's killing the kid. The kid or the artist might win at that moment, but the longevity of it is impacting the kid. Generally, you know, there's not enough people who are passionate and invested in this culture. The rapper is not the most important person in this culture. The DJ is not the most important person in this culture. The bloggers are not the most important people in the culture. Neither are the promoters. We all are the culture, you know? So when you find a person that's genuinely in the culture, invested in the culture, that literally like sells and gives you the stories of the artist, you gotta respect that, because that person respects the culture. So, you know, I have to, with all the love and respect I have for all the work that Casper has done, we have to mention that, like, once we started getting the story properly from everybody, we all had a responsibility to say, what Casper did at Tasco, we could have done better. Casper could have done better. He could have just never accepted the interview. He could have just walked away. We could have done better with regards to that, you know. We gotta protect the guys that are invested in that culture. Sort of like we protect Casper, we gotta protect, even if Tasco is not a huge star, we gotta protect the guys that are invested in our culture. That's the only way we're gonna grow, you know? And the fans on and that are tweeting and everything else, if you are really invested in the culture, those are the guys that are actually giving you the insights on what your favorite artist is doing at a time when the artist can't do it at that time. You know what I mean? That's the guy that's selling the artist when your fan is actually probably saying, nah, I'm not feeling that. We gotta protect the people that are invested in the culture. That's all it is. Ain't no one more special. We all equal. And immediately if one of us thinks we're more special, we start having a problem. Alright? Done with that. And then my number three. My number three, once again, is it really goes back to Casper Run's game. Taking shots at Dumi. I mean, Dumi might have not done anything directly for Casper Nyovest. You know, it's like Dumi probably hasn't done anything directly for many artists, right? But I think what Dumi was trying to say is that they're the foundation of a certain thing. The way Bionic was the foundation, he literally put Squatter Camp on stage at Black August, and we performed with Black Thought. It opened up our minds. We saw something we never saw. The way that they started Eargasm, we learned things, and the next generation learns. And I mean, you look at where we are with hip hop today. I mean, Frank Casino is gonna go shoot a video with A$AP Ferg. I mean, if you think about A$AP Ferg coming to South Africa and saying he's gonna collaborate with a South African, you know, that's not because A$AP Ferg made an isolated decision. He's been seeing Casper, he's been seeing Questa, he's been seeing AKA, and even if or Nasty C, and even if he doesn't know who they are, he's been hearing these guys that there's a buzz, whether it's through Sway, whether it's through whatever, Talib Kweli collaborates. A$AP Ferg literally makes a decision based on a lot of Americans are actually messing with these Africans. Americans don't move unless there's a reference. So if you look at the collaboration between A$AP Ferg and Frank Casino, Casper probably has nothing to do with it directly. But the work that Casper, aka Nasty C, Questa, and all these guys have done by spending money to go overseas and push their stuff and build these relationships with your Beats One, all that shit spills over to another artist and goes, I maybe need to mess with these Africans. They're probably not as weird or foreign or tribal as they are. And that's the work that like these cats have done. I cannot claim that work and go, it's because of me, AKA was in America. I can't. But we've literally been building pillars that allow people to go to certain places so they can open doors for other people to go to other places. This is wealth. It's the history that's the wealth. So I gotta literally like also just put it out there that, you know, yes, we agree, Dumi probably never did anything directly for Casper, but the influence that Casper has, to actually make kids go, yeah, well, what Dumi meant is that this was a building brick. They're building bricks, and the same way that Casper can go, listen, this is what's happening with the kids because of what we did. We all contribute, even if it's a little, we all contribute to build this big thing which is called hip-hop, which literally reaches the sky, which one day will be global, which one day literally will be like doing touring across the world. It's because of the work that everyone is doing today. We all investing. So for all the kids that literally see that on social and go, yeah, do me things, I ain't even in defense of Dumi. All Dumi was saying is that we all a bridge. And I have to mention that because tomorrow, or in the next 5 years, I know guys, once again, because I've been in the game for a while, I know a guy that when we were the biggest group and we literally stopped being active, then these guys were coming up. And when we speak to these guys who are looking up to us, literally they'd all be brand new on us. And then when they brand new on us, then they carry on and they start becoming non-active, and they come back to us and they go, yo, Slick, but you know these new kids have got no respect. And we go, but B, that's who you were. That's who you were. That's what you became also in the game. You know? I'm just saying, it's a circle. And we all contributing. And if we forget the history, if we forget Philip F&B today, if someone literally, if they don't amplify Philip F&B in the next 10 years, if they forget that, what do we have, guys? We have a bunch of kids who keep on thinking that they're the ones who started, they brand new, and they never go, you know, this is where it started. How do we make it better than Casper so we can multiply it and make it bigger, and always ask from them? Yo, this is how wealth is built, y'all. And I'm gonna go back to the whole Jewish thing where y'all talk about the Jewish have history, and they learn from the history and they pass and they respect where it comes from and they make it better. So once again, Dumi ain't done shit for Casper, straight. But Dumi has done something for the culture a long time ago that like is spilling over to the culture today. Like many people, like Casper's doing something for the culture, like AKA, that's gonna spill over in the next 5-10 years. Trust me, your roses are still coming. My last one, once again, also goes back to Casper. I feel that he filled up F&B, the biggest feat for a local artist. I know we talked about it, I know, but I don't think that I don't think the media, I don't think the papers, I just don't think that we gave it enough acknowledgement. You know what I mean? I don't think we gave it enough acknowledgement. I don't think we made it a big deal. You know, FYI, a real stat, it's events that are ran by artists of the culture, like black artists that literally sell more tickets than brand events that have our artists. But here's this event that literally sold out, that should be celebrated. This guy figured out a price point. He figured out a social strategy. There's so much marketing insight that literally like a lot of companies and brands fail to understand that it could be learned from Casper. There should be a case study. I was saying this from the first, there should be a case study around what this kid has done. And that shit should be sold to different parts of the market. He should be making money off that. But we're gonna always rub it under the carpet because we slept on it and we never believed in it. We need to start celebrating ourselves more. We need to start seeing our value more. And going back to how I opened this thing up, we all won at the end of the day. It is the promoters that are created from the culture who are selling more tickets in hip hop than the brands that are trying to do hip hop events that have all the money. But it's the same promoters that don't have all the money to literally give you the best experience. It is up to us, the fans, it is up to us, the people who say we're behind the culture, to actually support this and to actually acknowledge the challenges that we're going through. So with that being said, these are the top 10 things that I think that we could have done better this year, you know, and as you can see, these things are not about Casper. These things are not about Nasty. These things are not about AK. These things are about a history, a culture that we've allowed, which allows us not to acknowledge who we are, where we come from, and the value that we have when we work together, right? So with that being said, peace out. 2018, let's get together. Let's be stronger. Let's bring in the real numbers. And let's run this business, y'all. Shit.
Broadcast live